Bhavana?
Okay, ma'am.
Good
Okay.
evening to all dignitaries, guests, and delegates with great joy and immense exultation. I feel privileged to extend my warm welcome on behalf of Mahaguru Institute and its CS department, who has organized and clubbed all of us for this virtual workshop on JavaScript. I hereby welcome our honorable source person, Mr. George Simon K., who is a software consultant, also welcoming our respected principal, Ms. Manju ma'am, HOD Ms. Suma ma'am, S3 CSC coordinator, Ms. Chitra ma'am, workshop coordinator, Ms. Tessie Abraham ma'am, and all other participants present in this meeting. Now, I call upon Ms. Bhavana to produce a short introduction on JavaScript.
JavaScript is a lightweight object-oriented
Bhavana,
language
നെറ്റ്
which used by
കണക്റ്റഡ് അല്ലെന്ന്
several
തോന്നുന്നു. ഭാവന, നെറ്റ്വർക്ക്
websites for
ശരിയല്ലെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു.
scripting the web pages. It is a graphical web. Hello, ma'am.
ഇനി പറഞ്ഞോ. പറഞ്ഞോളൂ.
JavaScript is a lightweight, object-oriented programming language which is used by several websites for scripting the web pages. It is an interpreted, full-fledged programming language that enables dynamic interactivity on websites when applied to an HTML document. It was introduced in the year 1995 for adding programs to the web pages in the Netscape Navigator browser. Since then, it has been adopted by all other graphical web browsers. With JavaScript, users can build modern web applications to interact directly without reloading the page every time. The traditional website uses JavaScript to provide several forms of interactivity and simplicity.
Thank you for the intro, Bhavana. Now, to know more about deep level web developing, I would like to call our resource person, Mr. George Simon K., to share his expertise based on the subject. Sir.
Thank you.
Sir, you can share your screen now.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir.
First of all, thank you for the welcome and thank you for the introduction. So today we are going to learn about JavaScript. As you heard in the introduction, JavaScript is a lightweight programming language. Indeed, it's a very lightweight programming language. And it's world's most popular client-side programming languages. Usually, in short form, we call JS. It's one of the core technologies in the web programming. We club along with HTML and CSS. Usually to learn other programming languages, we need to install the SDK, we have to set up the system. But here you don't want anything. You only need a browser. This screen, I want to share one of the interesting fact about JavaScript. When you build a web programming, you have front end and you have back end. And you can see I've written 98% of the client side programming language is written in JavaScript, 98%. And we have the backend. Backend, we have quite a lot of options. Java is there, PHP, Python, C#, Go language, and list goes on. And one of the leading is Java, and it's only 33% of the companies are using Java in the backend. But you see 98% of the websites are using JavaScript. That itself shows how powerful it is. Now, let me go to few examples is, first example here, is showing how to structure a JavaScript program. A JavaScript program, usually we write it inside an HTML file. Inside the head tag, we write the script and write whatever scripting we need inside the script tag. But one of the best approach I can show you is you can keep JavaScript separately. You can see here, I've given index.js and I club all the scripting inside this JavaScript file and call them in the JavaScript, in the HTML file. And the JavaScript file, I'm loading at the bottom of the screen. So the code looks much neater and very easy to debug and very easy to understand. So a web program has three parts. One is HTML, one is JavaScript, one is the CSS. It's always better to separate those three. HTML, you put all the HTML content, and CSS, you write separately. Here I have the CSS file. And inside the HTML file, I'm calling the CSS as well as the JavaScript. Now, second example, onwards, I'm going to show some of the interesting facts in JavaScript. Let's take what is objects. In JavaScript, I hope everyone can see my screen. In
Yes, sir.
JavaScript,
Yes, sir. We can see your screen.
Thank you. So this program onwards, I'm going to share some of the programming aspects and objects and how you can call it. And in the heading I've given, JavaScript, almost everything is an object. You take everything, that's an object. The whole screen you see here from the top left where I point my cursor, I'm using an Opera browser. You see a red color icon here, all the way from this left-hand side corner to the bottom right. That portion of the browser is called a window object, and that is the parent of all the objects in JavaScript, window. Inside window, we have, you can see this location bar where it is file, :/ users, George. So that is called location. That comes inside the window. And after the window, you see the white screen starting from where my cursor is, the top left, and goes all the way here. And that is one of the backbone, I say, of JavaScript programming language. That's called a document. A document object is basically when the page is loaded, when your HTML page is loaded into the browser creates the DOM, called document object model, where you call the document object model with a predefined object called document. What I mean to say is you say document dot something that refers to the screen from this left top portion all the way to the right bottom. And whatever is there inside the HTML file, you can call it like an element. Now you see here, I have a small box here, original players, under that KL Rahul, Rohit Sharma. So this portion I highlighted. I have written everything inside a div tag. That is an element. In the code you can see I'm taking the code. Yes. Just behind original players, I have a div starting and div closing. That's called an element. This is called an element. This is called an element. So basically everything is an element. Whatever you write in an HTML is an element. So using the document object, which is the core in JavaScript, you can get a reference to the element. Now I have a box here or an element, which I started with div tag and ending with div tag, and I given an ID. So I want to populate one message into the box. So that's what you have seen here, KL, Rahul, Rohit Sharma, all these 4 names. And in the HTML file, I haven't written anything, it's blank. But through JavaScript, I've added a text into that element or into that box. That means using the document object, you can dynamically add a text, you can dynamically add an element, you can dynamically add, edit, delete, modify, condense inside the HTML. When I say content, it can be text, can be image, it can be an HTML, a collection of HTML tags or a single tag, etc. So basically, you can say the document object is the root node of the HTML document, what you see in that main white screen. And on top of that, this location is not part of the document. That is called location. Most of the browsers you see history. That is not part of the document. That is part of the window called history. And you can save the, when a user visits a website and gives some information, he put his name or some details. Next time when he comes, you don't want to ask the details again. So you can save it using a local storage. So that is part of window. So this example, we are going to look a very simple example with the document object. As I have, As usual, I've written the JavaScript separately. I haven't clubbed the JavaScript inside the HTML. You can write it, but I've kept it separately so that it is easy to understand. The file called index.js, and the index.js, I kept it here, and I'm calling it inside the JavaScript. So this JavaScript, you can have many JavaScript files here. I'm only using one file now. So here I declared an array. In JavaScript, everything is an array. Everything is an object. String, array, all are objects. So I have an array called players where I pre-populated 4 names, just 4 names. Now, into this element, I want to populate the content. So there are few ways you can populate contents to an element. Again, when I say element, that's basically an HTML tag starting and closing. Here in this example is a div tag. So this box I want to fill with some details, and the details are the name of this place. So there are few ways you can get a reference or a pointer or get an element or get a object to the element from the document object. There are a few methods, but one of the main prominent method is get element by ID. So in this ID, you have to make sure that the ID of the element is unique. So if I have another ID like this, the same one, so only the first one will be taken. So that is the reason I said ID should be unique. Unlike C language or Java language, it won't give any error if you keep multiple IDs, same ID multiple times. But when the page gets loaded, you may not get the appropriate result. So make sure you have to have the ID unique. And inside the JavaScript, you can call document.getElement by ID. Document refer to the entire document object model. And this one search for a element with ID box 1 original players. That's the name I've given. And there are multiple ways you can do it. That is by get element by tag name. But in this case, it's not useful. I can say get element by tag name called div. It will return all the div tags. 1, 2, 3. There are quite a lot of div tags. So that is the reason I said the prominent method which we use to populate into an element is get element by ID. When you call get element by ID and pass the ID, and if the ID is an appropriate one, and if the ID found in the HTML, then it will give a reference that is not null. And into the reference, you can call the other methods like other properties, inner text or inner HTML. And I am populating the content of players. You might have seen the heading of this example is almost everything is an object. So array is also an object. So for a few minutes, let me just divert into array. Array also has several methods. See, when I'm populating this, the content of box 1 original players, I am joining the array with the join method. That means the array has few methods called join, push. Push means to add another value to the end of the array. You can call unshift. You can call slice to remove an item. There is a property called length. It will show the total length of the array. Like that, there are very few methods. Basically 10-15 minutes you can by heart the entire methods in the array. Another method is called sort. I'm just using join here and I'm passing comma and one space. So that's the reason why you're seeing here all the players with the comma and a space here, comma and a space. Now let me take you to another example. I'm adding to this array. So here I'm using the method push. Array name is players. Into the players, I'm pushing one name. Okay, and that name I am asking the user. Here you will see object called method called prompt. Prompt is a member in the window object. Basically, it will ask. It'll show some screen like this, and it'll ask you to enter a name. So I'm entering a name like this. I'm giving a first name, last name. Clicking OK, and it gets added into the second box. So here I'm accepting the value using the prompt method. Prompt is a method in the window object. Window object has 3 alert boxes. One is just alert, so it will show some message saying successfully uploaded, something like that. Second one is called prompt. The prompt will accept a user input. And third one is called confirm. It will say, do you want to continue, yes, or cancel? So we have 3 methods. I'm just using one method, prompt, to ask the name. And whatever the name the user has given, I added into the players array. Now, earlier I mentioned that the array has quite a few methods. One of the methods is called sort. The default sort in the array is by alphabetical order. But here I'm giving my own logic for sorting. I'm taking the last name to sort. That is the reason, Mahi Dhoni has gone first, because D, it's sorted by sorted by last name. D comes first and S came second. Basically, players dot sort means it will sort based on the alphabetical for a string. If it is a number, it's numerical sorting. At the same time, you can override the existing sorting in the JavaScript. And to the second, I have one more box here. You can call it like element, box to latest players. So all the modification I've done to the previous original players, originally I had 4 players, I modified and put it here. Instead of the comma and a space, you see 2 hash symbols, because when I said join means, you concatenate the elements in the array. I given hash, 2 spaces and hash. Another 2 methods in the array is, some of them I already mentioned, like push, unshift, slice. There are a few more methods which is very interesting. One is called map and second is called filter. All the other methods like push, unshift, slice, pop or something, that will actually mute or change the array. When I added Chetan Sharma earlier, it actually changed the array. So into the players, it added Chetan Sharma. But now this method called map or filter the array, it won't alter the existing array, but it will create a separate array with the modified value. Just 2 examples. One is using map and one is using filter. So let us take map. So here I'm asking, do you want to modify with some value? Yes, I am modifying with batsman. Within bracket, I added that and clicked OK. Now, the same array, within milliseconds, it got updated or appended with the text I added. This is using map. So very simple method. This is my array players and I call map. Earlier I called push to add an element into the array. Here I call map. So basically it will iterate. That means it will go through all the values in the array and modify each value. I'm having a counter here, 1.name, and the str to add I actually asked the user, what do you want to add? I given batsman in bracket BAT. So that information got added. Now another example of one method called filter. This is also similar to map. This won't alter the existing array, but it will create a separate array. This is the method filter. Filtering means it will, even if we have a array length of say 1000 or 2000, you are saying I need all the players ending with the name Sharma. So we have Rohit Sharma, we have Chetan Sharma, and I clicked, and it gave the result Rohit Sharma and Chetan Sharma. That is called filter. So this is another method, important method inside the JavaScript array called filter. Earlier I mentioned about map. The second one is filter. Inside the filter, you can give whatever condition you want to give. Here I given a condition saying name. The array has basically it's a name of the cricket player. That's why I given name. Their first name, last name. So it checks this name ends with what I have given here. I've given Sharma. So it filtered the result and given me the result. So here I want to mention that in JavaScript, almost everything is an object. And one of the important object in JavaScript is called document. Now let's take another example of document with forms, events and forms. In most of the web pages, you will see this form because we always accept values and some information from the user. A very simple form. In a JavaScript form, we have multiple input types. I'm not using everything here, but I'm using input type text I'm using. Then text itself, we have another variety called password, where whatever you're writing will be discarded. And there is something called telephone, type tel. That means if you take the web page in the mobile screen, you'll get the numerical pad. That's called tel. And then we have date input type, file, color, then rating, month, week. My page was full, so otherwise I would have added a drop down, that is select and option, checkbox, the radio button, etc. Now let me show this source code. Just a few words before I open the JavaScript file. Always better to use an IDE for JavaScript so that you can beautify the file. So very easy to understand where the code starts, where the tag, that is the element, starts and where it ends. So I'm using Sublime Text. Microsoft Visual Studio Code is free and it's one of the powerful one. Okay, now come back to the screen. As usual, my HTML file, you see I'm importing the style here in head. I'm not written any scripting thing here. I call the script as a file here towards the bottom of the screen. And whatever I want to write in JavaScript, I've written everything inside this file called index.js. Now let's open the file. Events in JavaScript, again, they are like a backbone of the HTML programming. And when the state of an element changes, that's called an event. User might click, that's an event. User might change the value of a dropdown, it's an event. After typing in a text box, user moves to the next box, that's called another event called blur. Like that, we have few, then mouse movement, that's an event. When the page gets loaded, that's a loading event. So this example, I have few events I want to show you. And first one, let me show. I have a pin code input box, And the pin code input box should only accept 6 digits, should not accept alphabet or any special characters, and the length should be 6. I'm typing actually all the alphabet, it's not accepting it. I'm typing a number, it's accepting it. After 4, I moved my mouse. It immediately displayed an error. Let's look what is happening here. I've given tel here. So in the mobile devices, it'll make sure that the user will get the numeric pad, only the numeric pad. And I have an event here on key press. That is whenever the user is pressing the key, that's an event. That state of that box is changed. I'm calling a JavaScript function called only number key. And it returns a value, only number key. So this method called only number key, you won't see it here in the Java, in the HTML file. You will see in the JavaScript file, only number key. Basically, this checks the ASCII value of whatever the user has typed and make sure that is a digit. If it is a digit, it return true. If it is not a digit, it return false, so that whatever the user pressed, that character will not be added into the box. So that's why I'm typing A, B, C, nothing is coming here because it takes the ASCII value. It is not matching the criteria. So it's showing the error and returning false. So when it return false, see this, that value will not be added in this box. And I'm displaying an error. You might have seen this error in red color, just behind the box. So that is, this is an element. I've given an ID called error pin code. No text is there. So if the condition is not matching, then it will say pin code should be a number. That's why I'm typing some alphabets here. That is the reason you're seeing that message. Now I'm adding more than 6 digits. That is the reason you're seeing another message called pin code should be 6 digits. So the 6-digit validation I'm using inside another event called blur. Blur means when the user has finished typing and moved on from that text box. That means the user finished the pin code, moved on, immediately check. Immediately call this method called check pin code. It checks the value. If the length is not 6, it will show this error. Pin code should be 6 digits. Now in this example, we are going to see how you can connect to a form in the document. Fortunately, we have a variable inside the document object model called forms. Look at only this, what I highlighted here, document.forms. It returns all the forms in that document. That means you can have multiple forms. But generally, we will have only one form, unless and until the input, there are quite a lot to input. For example, a student is joining a college. So we have to fill a form. So first form may be the student's personal details. Second form may be the parents' detail. So like that, we can have multiple forms also. That's possible. So this forms will return in the order in which it is added. That means first form will be at the 0th location. There is another way you can refer a form in a document, and that should be the approach you should be taking. Give a name to the form. When you write the form in HTML, assign a name. I've given a very simple name, my form, or you can generally say some meaningful name, student input form. I've given my form. So when you say document.forms, which returns an array, and you pass the name of the form, you're getting a reference to the entire form. You see here, this is what? Document dot form of my form. By calling this property, I'm getting a reference to the form. And inside the form, we have several input boxes. So that one, you can get a reference to it by saying with parenthesis, you can say what is the name of the input. Document.forms returns an array. Document.form of the index or the name return a specific reference to the form, which returns all the elements. So how to capture an element? This is the way. My form and the pin code. If I want to get the name, I say name. I'm getting the name. If I want the email, I'm getting the email. So this is how you can validate. This example, I'm trying to submit an array, submit the form, and it showed some error. Name required, email required, and pin code required. And all the information vanished after 5 seconds. So you might have seen this, that red color error got removed within 5 seconds. That is because I've written a set timeout. Timeout is another wonderful method inside JavaScript, which will be executed after this many specified milliseconds. 1000 milliseconds is 1 second. That means this method is executed after 5 seconds, where the error displayed at the bottom, just below the name, error displayed just below the email. And I have one more validation, error displayed just below pin code. So those messages will be removed. So these 4 are straightforward input boxes. And we have an date box like this. Let me fill some details here. This is a file input. This is a color input. This might be useful, if you create a student web portal and each student is interested with a different color. When they log in, they want to see that. You can call the color element. This is also part of the form. It's an input box. The student likes this color. And a rating, some rating, whatever marks he got or rating he got. And this is month, week. And there are a few other form elements I mentioned. One is select option, that is a drop down, checkbox, radio button. And when I click submit, in the right hand side, I'm displaying some information just to let you know that when you call document.forms of 0 or document.forms of the name myform.elements, myform.elements.length, that means how many items are there, I++, get the reference to the element. I'm making a string concatenating the name of the element and the value of the element, and I'm displaying to div results. Div results is there's another block in the HTML. And one more thing you will see here in when I click submit, you will see a progress bar just going. You know, oftentimes when you submit a form to the server, you know, users, most of the users won't have the patience to wait, and they will keep pressing. So if you can show a progress bar, that is useful. So that is just a demonstration of the progress bar. When I click, it starts, it goes like that. So here I have a progress bar. Progress is part of the HTML5. Towards the bottom of the screen, just above the button, submit button, you will see this progress bar. Starting value is 0. It can go all the way to 100. This progress is only available in HTML5. That means you have to write this one. This indicates that it's an HTML5. If you don't declare this one, in some of the browsers, this progress bar won't be visible. So what I'm doing here in submit, I don't have a server right now to show the exact value, how much is completed, how much file is transferred, etc. But I'm giving you an example. Each half a second, I'm increasing the value just to show a demonstrate. Each half a second, I'm increasing the progress value. That means it will be executed nearly 18 times. So then it will reach 100. And that value, progress, initial value is 10. That value I'm giving into the file upload. File upload is the progress bar's name. ID, progress ID file upload. Document.getElement by ID. So getElement by ID is one of the prominent method in JavaScript. You're passing the file upload ID and setting the value so that the progress bar is increased all the way to 100. I have a few more examples to show, but I think the time is going fast. Let me just show one more example. This is another example of form. In this example, I don't have a server right now to show how the data is transferred. So what I did is I used a Google spreadsheet and made it my server, and to catch the result into the Google spreadsheet. If I start a server, it will take a lot of space in my machine. So I'm not using that. I'm just adding some values into this is a Google spreadsheet. So I created a spreadsheet, got a reference to this spreadsheet. And in that spreadsheet, I have just a name and email, that's it. You'll see two submit here. The first submit, the big one, is basically the input type submit, where you don't want to write on click and all. If it is inside a form, what will happen is the form will get submitted. Second submit is just HTML button. It is not a submit button, it's HTML button, but I made it into submit. I'm calling a method called submit and validate name and email is found. Then only the data needs to be transferred to the server. If you are using the first submit, where you need the validation, that is, you are using input type equal to submit, And you need to submit this form only if the user fill the entire criteria. Then this method you have to write, that is on submit equal to return validate form. This return is very important. This keyword return is very important here. That means the method what you are writing, validate form, is you're going to write in the JavaScript validate form. If it returns true, then the form will be submitted. Otherwise, the form will not be submitted. Like the previous example, I used the document.forms, which returns all the forms. I have only one form, so I'm using 0 index, or you can use the name of the form, and I'm checking the elements. Name has a value. Basically, you can do like this also, or you can say elements of name. If both has value, it will get submitted. Both has value, so it got submitted. Now this inserted the value into Google spreadsheet. And the reason I've selected spreadsheet is I don't have a server to show a demo. That's the reason I made this as my server. I have 3 more examples, but I would like to know till how much time I can go, or can get a reference. Document.forms, we will get the reference to the form and the elements, whatever elements, you can do all kinds of validation. And if you want to display an error, you get a reference to the place where you want to display the error using document.getElementById, and then display the error. And the 5th one, I've written here JSON. JSON means, JavaScript, the data in the exchange between the browser, that is the front end, and the back end. Generally, nowadays, everybody is using JSON. Earlier, people used XML, then like a string they use. String is still being used, but JSON is getting a lot of momentum, and a lot of web applications are using the JSON. JSON is very simple. I'll just show the example of a JSON. This is a JSON. Basically, it's an object. And in the introduction, whoever does done the introduction, they said one word called JavaScript is a lightweight programming language. Indeed, it's lightweight. See, look at the way I'm creating an object here. I'm sorry. Okay. Just set let on variable or var variable. I'm opening one bracket. Name.value, name.value, name.value. Sorry, not dot. Double quotes value. Whatever you write within single quotes or double quotes, consider as string. Whatever without that, it's number. Or we also have date. That's an object. So this object you can use to transfer the data into the server, also retrieve the data from the server. This is called JSON. And let me go to another example. JSON, basically, I'm displaying the JSON, that's it. I want to use the JSON here in this example. So when I use the JSON here in this example, I want to just talk about, there are a lot of amazing third-party libraries in JavaScript. Earlier I mentioned, in the web programming, we have two sections mainly. One is the front end and the back end. 98% of the programming done in the front end is JavaScript. 98% as of earlier this year. In back end, we have few options like Java, PHP, Python, where Java is leading with the 33-35%. But in the coming days, there is a server-side JavaScript which might overtake Java. So whatever you're using here, not the document object and all, but the JavaScript, the array, all the coding that you can use in the server side also. So there probably you might require some of the third-party libraries. I'm just sharing one third-party library called _JS. We have quite a lot of third-party libraries, _JS, all free, written by some amazing universities or programmers. _.js it can work on array much better than the JavaScript array. It's a basically modified version of the array. They have array methods here. There are a few other third-party libraries called Moment.js for date functionalities. The list goes on, maybe much more than 100. So this example, I'm going to use _JS, one simple method I'm going to use. And also I want to share a fetch API, fetch in JavaScript, and the document object model where I can create a table. Let me take this example. So in order to run this, I'm loading actually a DB in the form of a file. So I have to start a very lightweight server in Python, very lightweight. Basically display the country code, country name, the currency, few details. And this is my source code. This is my, you can call it like a DB also. You can see the file extension I have given capital.json. The data is in JSON format. It has country code, country name, country population, capital, continent name, dash, dash. Maybe around 250, 240 countries. So I'm loading this file. You can imagine you're loading this file from a server into your web page. For that, you can use one of JavaScript predefined way of calling HTTP GET or HTTP POST using this fetch. You only need to write, this is fetch. A capital.json, because the file name is capital.json and the file is there in the same location of the source code. Otherwise, if you're calling from a server, you have to write HTTP :the server name / the name of the file. When you call this name, all the data in this file, the file could be in a remote place, a different place, maybe in a cloud. This file I'm talking, and the file will be loaded into your web page. Just one method. So that's what it is showing here, using this method called fetch. Very simple. You can call a JSON. And not only JSON, you can call a text file, you can call a CSV file and do some modification and display it in your web page. But look at my HTML table I started. I had the table ID, my table, closing the T head. But records I don't have any records displayed here, but I have T body, ID, test body. That's all. This is an element. You remember I said an element. It has an ID. So what I'm doing here, when I loaded the data from a remote server, all the countries in my JavaScript file, I'm getting a reference to the table and creating a row. When you say the table dot insert row, a row is created. That is what you write using tr tag. A row is created. Very simple. By the way, this for each is like instead of writing for I equal to 1 semicolon I less than countries dot length I plus plus. Instead of that, I have written items countries for each a country. Item is a country. I'm creating a row. Into the row, I'm creating a cell, that is TD. First TD. This is second TD. Third TD. And each cell is an element, so I can use the inner HTML or inner text and put the data from this JSON file. See how powerful the document object model is. We just get a reference to the table, create a row, create a cell, and you add the text. Let me wind up by showing one example of the underscore JS1 method called where. In the DBMS, we have where condition. You can do a query select star from country where continent name is. That you can do it here with the help of this method. So at the bottom of the screen, I have a method called search. I'm searching. I'm putting this is the continent name Asia. Click OK. And the list is filtered. So this is how powerful the JavaScript is. You can do quite a lot of things in JavaScript. Not only the JavaScript can be used in web pages. There are lots of mobile applications are built in JavaScript. Very simple. You write once the code and convert into an app. The app can go to Play Store for Android. App can go to App Store for iOS. It can go to Windows Store for mobile. The same code can be put it in the web page. You write once and you can cover all the browsers, Android mobile phones as a mobile application, iOS phone an iOS application, and Windows phone like a Windows application. So that much powerful JavaScript is. I'm winding up the talk today. Thank you for inviting me. I hope you understood a little bit on JavaScript. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bhavana?
Thank you, sir, for sharing such resourceful information regarding JavaScript. I'm sure that many of us will surely try to make use of it. Now, I would like to call Ms. Anusri of S3CSE for giving a vote of thanks.
It seems to be a great honor to propose the vote of thanks to all who have helped us in making this event a very resounding success. First of all, I would like to give my heartfelt thanks to our resource person, Mr. George Simon K., for gracing today's seminar. I would like to thank our distinguished speaker for making an excellent presentation and making this workshop a very interesting section. I would like to express our gratitude to our principal, Ms. Manju ma'am, and our HOD, Ms. Suma ma'am, for their presence in this seminar. And a special thanks to Ms. Tessie ma'am for bringing this opportunity and for her great guidance. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Anusri. Now to speak a few words, I call the workshop coordinator, Mrs. Tessie Abraham. Ma'am?
Yes, thank you, Bhavana. Good evening, all. Feeling thankfulness and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. So, on behalf of Mahaguru Institute of Technology, I take this opportunity to propose the vote of thanks to those who have directly or indirectly contributed to this workshop. First and foremost, I would like to thank our resource person, Mr. George Simon Kay, who, despite his busy schedule, has found time to be with us and take the workshop on JavaScript. Thank you, sir. Also, I would like to thank the management and our principal madam for their constant support. A special thanks to Suma ma'am, HOD CSE, and all my colleagues for their coordination to make this workshop a success. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all my dear students for their active participation. With these warm words, we move to the end of today's workshop. I request you all to kindly fill the feedback form which is sent in the chat. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
ma'am.
ഓക്കെ എല്ലാവർക്കും ലീവ് ചെയ്യാം പക്ഷെ ഫീഡ്ബാക്ക് ഫോം ഫില്ല് ചെയ്യണേ എല്ലാവരും.
Thank all for giving your valuable time for this event. Thank you.